Hello there, Michael Neff here, Director of Gear Sports, and right now we're going to do a video on shaft deflection. It's the fifth video in a series of 7 on the shaft that we're doing. And today I've actually chose to do a little different. On this video I've chose to do Lexi Thompson and her brother Curtis Thompson. Lexi obviously is a LPGA star. Curtis is a young budding star on the web.com tour, and really good action, really good golf swing, and I can see him playing on the PGA tour soon. Anyways, I picked these guys example because I captured them both at the PGA show 2 years ago, and they're using the exact same club. So it's an 8.5X. This was a Fly Z 8.5 degree X Flex 45-inch driver, and since they basically hit the exact same club. So Lexi's at 102 miles per hour basically. Again, we see this kind of from the previous videos. You kind of see kind of a lower grip speed. Her brother Curtis has a much higher grip speed, but he's also got a lot more club head speed, but they swing very differently. And but we're talking basically about shaft deflection here, and if you go to the shaft deflection line here, you can kind of see, I'm taking them both. In fact, the shaft deflection basically is the amount of lead or lag deflection that the club gets through the golf swing. So we give it to you throughout the whole swing, and you'll see after impact the club goes into lag, and prior to the impact the club is always going to be in lead deflection. So that means the head is going to be in front of the center of the shaft. And once the club hits the ball, obviously it's going to kick the other direction. But how much lead deflection you get has a lot to do with what kind of golf club you should be playing. If you're not aware of this information when you're giving a lesson and you don't know where the ball is precisely being hit on the face, you could be very well fighting this golf club more than you are your student. So knowing precisely where you're hitting it on the face, especially now that we've had our bulge and roll discussion and how important it is to know where the launch is coming from, we can really kind of go in and fine tune, see what's going on with this shaft, and what your players are doing to it. I'm going to overlay these two golf clubs. So this is basically both of them at impact. So Curtis is in the blue. He leans the shaft way more forward. Lexi kind of pulls the shaft more up. And as you guys remember her swing, she stands really straight up and down. She uses a lot of the vertical ground force to create that kind of whipping effect. Again, she's going to have a much kind of a much more cracking the whip action. So let's take them both to the max club head speed that they get. It's like Lexi's top club head grip speed is about right here. Yeah, about right here. So this is the partner golf swing where the club reaches its highest grip speed. So she's really gonna kind of crack that. And Curtis is basically about right. That's about right in here. So this is basically when they both get to their max golf speed. So again, they're swinging the club very differently. Curtis is obviously swinging it faster, but Lexi is actually offending the shaft more. And this is the exact same club. Keep in mind this. So this is kind of an important distinction, going through the importance of really. And I'm going to overlay these guys on top of each other. So they definitely present the club to the ball very differently with the same exact club. Now, deflection. Deflection is the amount in millimeters of lead or lag deflection. So I'm going to zoom in on these guys. We'll go kind of side by side here again. That is the amount of, in millimeters, how much the center of the head is off the shaft line. So that's what we're calling lead deflection. So here Lexi has 30 millimeters of lead deflection with an X Flex 8.5 driver. Okay, and she has 41 millimeters of droop. So if we look at from this perspective, that's how much the shaft is drooping. Okay, so if we look over here at Curtis, Curtis has the same amount of shaft droop, but Lexi has almost 8 millimeters more deflection than does Curtis. So here's Curtis. We kind of see here the same golf club. So Lexi is basically offending the shaft more than Curtis is at 20 miles an hour or less clubhead speed. So this is an important distinction here, and you'll see here that this deflection is caused by several different things. With the same club though, what this deflection does, that shaft kick, you'll see here that our previous video that she's in 0.75 millimeters of shaft kick. So this particular shaft, she is basically accelerating. The club is kind of still accelerating. So this club actually she felt was soft, and it felt kind of soft. Curtis has negative shaft kick with the same exact shaft at 120 miles per hour. So the club is actually on its deceleration, and when I asked him how this golf club felt, he said it actually feels pretty good. And I asked if it felt soft, and he's like, no. So they feel two totally different things. Lexi plays a very stiff driver, and Curtis does too, but they basically move the shaft differently. So how do we manage deflection? So the more shaft deflection we get, that's going to increase the angle of attack, and it's going to move the marks down on the face, and it's going to move the swing path more to the left for a right-handed player, or more towards zero in this case. So she's hitting inside to out 6 degrees, up 3.2 degrees. So with this particular club, if I were to soften her club, what would happen is the deflection would go up, the ball mapping would go down, the swing path would get closer to zero, the angle of attack would go up, and the ball speed would actually go down, the ball would launch lower, and the spin would move a little bit too. But we'd also probably start to get more kind of erratic movement on the face. Tee height plays a huge role in this. So if I had this exact same club and she made the exact same swing with the tee higher, and she didn't make any adjustments, then the launch conditions would be very different. So if I teed it higher and I soften this golf club, I might land right in the middle with more clubhead speed and more deflection and more angle of attack with the path a little bit to the left or more towards zero. But chances are is I would really be sacrificing consistent face mapping. So again, if your player can hit the same spot over and over and over again with a soft shaft, then that's great, and we can take advantage of the shaft flexing and the clubhead speed. But the chances are is that they can't, and most people don't. I have yet to see evidence that that's a consistent pattern, that people can go softer and still hit the same spot over and over again. But I'm not perfect, and I'm sure somebody could prove me wrong on that, but I haven't seen it yet. So what you really are looking for is low deflection, and you might have to adjust tee height to accomplish what you're trying to do, but really the best players in the world and the most accurate players in the world have very low deflection, and you'll see that we'll get into this droop and ratio in the next two videos. But we're really looking for low deflection. We don't want this shaft bending a lot. We want to keep it the same. We want to basically hit the same spot on the face every single time, and that's how we're going to get consistent ball speed and consistent launch and consistent trajectory and control. So that is shaft deflection, and hopefully you enjoyed this little video between Lexi and her brother Curtis. It's pretty cool.